Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Healing from Within with me, your host, Keryn Rose. And you know, when I say I've got somebody in my playground with me. Today, I've got a gorgeous friend and a phenomenal energy healer in her own right, Lisa Brandis. Hi there, Lisa.
Hi, Keryn. Thanks so much for having me on your podcast. Super excited to be here.
Well, Lisa, I know all about you and what you do and how you share your gifts, of which there are many, with the world. Can you please share with my gorgeous listeners what it is that you do? How do you show up to the world with your gifts as an energy healer?
I teach women mostly. I do have men come through the training, but mostly I teach women who are looking to trust their intuition, wanting to develop their spirituality, feel like something's missing in their life and they just don't know what it is. Quite often there's a level of success that they've achieved and they're just looking for the joy. So I teach people how to connect to their soul, the spirit within through a series of courses that I offer both online and some in person through Reiki healing and also through learning how to connect with the spirit world. So that's what I do in a nutshell.
Now, I can say with hand on heart, I learned my Reiki through you. And that is how I was introduced to you many years ago. You were a Reiki master. And I'm thinking, wow, that fascinated me. And I came and I learned. Now, I reckon that there's a lot more to you in the gifts because it was a little bit of, I do a little bit of this and a little bit of that in your introduction. So if I was to say to you, what does healing from within mean to you from a personal perspective? How do you connect to that? And indeed, what does it mean for you?
Great question. For me, it's about expanding into joy. So healing for me is about learning. It's about growth. It's about tapping into that pathway of unconditional love that comes from connecting to the spirit realm, whether that be your soul, whether it be your spirit friends, your guidance, your ancestors. Healing modalities, much like the body code and Reiki, offer a tool and a technique, but ultimately it's about getting to know your true self. And when I say true self, it's that most loving, peaceful, humble aspect of yourself. So that's, to me, it's focusing on love and expanding into more and more love. And I've found that in the presence of light, darkness ceases to exist. So a friend of mine, friend, many, many years ago, said to me once, I was, I'd come from a teaching training where it was focused on, releasing the negative and what we didn't want. And she said to me, and it was in terms of a particular kind of, I guess, thought. And she said to me, well, I focus on love. And I said, what do you mean? And she goes, well, there's love or fear. And she said, I've made it my life's mission to focus on creating more love, expanding into more love. And I just went, I want that. I want what she's having. Like, what a wonderful concept to grow into self-love and love for others. So that's, at the heart of my business. I don't know if you can see behind me.
Yes.
There is the pathway, the success path of my whole business. And in the very core, the center is the word love, because I think that it's all love anyway, all of it. So it's about coming back home to oneself, which is to that place of unconditional love that exists within. So that's what healing is for me.
Thank you very much for that. It's fascinating to hear you talk about the how. Talk about the why it is that you do. It sounds like you were really taken by this idea of being infused with love and living from that space of love. How do you do that?
Yeah. Well, the variety, and that's what I love about it. There is there's like 1,000 ways in which we can tap into, um, happiness and joy. And I think I made it a bit of a mission of mine. And my husband and I are on the same page with this, which is great because whenever we're in a shit space, and I'll be absolutely honest, it doesn't mean I'm always achieving this state of joy and peace, because to be human means we're always thrown into contrast and the turbulence of life and the ups and downs and the failures and the disappointments. But behind the stress, there's this overwhelming desire for peace and for happiness that keeps picking me up off the floor. And I find different ways. So for me, it's through Reiki, it's through helping another. Whenever I'm feeling frustrated, I kind of go, be of service. Your will, not mine, where I expand into a greater state of being. That's what Reiki is and always has been for me. When I just stood and laid my hands on another human being, something profound happened when I experience Reiki, but also when I give it to someone else. I leave all my shit outside the healing room door. And to me, and it's been proven in studies, we look at, there's a wonderful healer that created the Power of Eight. I can't remember her name right now. It's gone out of my head, but it'll come to me in a minute. She did a study and basically did circles of 8 around the world where they focused on healing. And what they realized is that the very intention of sending and visualizing someone in the positive state that they wish to be in, so not focusing on what was wrong, but focusing on what was working right, or visualizing them, without that impairment, for instance, walking if they had a broken leg. They found that because everyone was focused for the period of time that they were doing this energy healing, that the very act of focusing on someone else and sending them positive insights and waves and frequency and energy automatically lifted and raised their vibration, and they experienced a healing as a pathway of just being of service. And to me, that's what it is. And I teach my students, which, as you've so gracefully said, you're one of, to focus 100% as much as we can on our clients and on being there and just holding that loving vibration and supporting them, letting Reiki do what Reiki does, and then letting the intuition come through as and when it resonates to do so. And by doing that, when we're there, we drop all our problems. And so, Reiki offers us this pathway to access this incredible healing energy and then be able to, share that with another. And I think you said the other day when we were talking, Keryn, there's something so, and I'd forgotten it a little bit because I was having a rant and a whinge because I was in my little human self, complaining and getting angry about something not going my way, my little human tantrum. And you kind of reminded me of the core of why I love what I do. And it is just in its simplest form. There's a humbleness to laying your hands on somebody and just trusting that they're vulnerable with us, that they open up and that they share sometimes some of the things that they can't or haven't shared with another soul in some cases. Or when they just walk in the office, sit down and start crying, it's because they're finally in an environment where someone's not going to judge them, where they feel nurtured and loved, and they can just share the things they've been bottling up. And that is healing in and of itself. Absolutely. That release. I see tears and I celebrate. Yeah, because I'm like, oh, good, there's a release happening, a shift, a letting go. So they can just return to that natural state of positivity. So I feel, God, I'm talking a lot. I feel that our natural state and flow is joy. And, life circumstances and mostly us, we pinch ourselves off from that, and it's about just returning. And, yeah, I don't know if I answered your question.
There's so much about what you have shared. And, I will often joke with my clients, hey, look, understand that when you're feeling good, I also feel good because you and I are connected. Everything is energy and everything is connected. So when I'm helping somebody release their shit,
Absolutely.
and they're lighter, because they're in the same world that I am. Their lightness infuses me, and I'm feeling better too. So
Yeah.
thank you very much. And they'll laugh. They'll laugh.
Yeah.
But
Win-win.
it's
Yeah.
that's
It's win-win.
that's the
Love it.
energetic part. But the human in us has that deep desire and need to feel safe, feel secure. So we as energy healers create that space that someone may not have had any idea that they're going to come in and have a good cry. And as soon as they walk in and sit down, they can't help themselves. They have a bloody good cry, and that they can't stop it. Therein is the energy, responding to the energy of you and the space that you've created.
Yeah, I don't feel that I've experienced it, they can't stop it. I feel that for me, they don't want to. Like it's that they're in a place where it's like we're saying, instead of telling them to stop it, because life tells them to shove it down, stop crying, it's okay, don't worry, don't be upset. In my healing space, I don't know if it's different for you, but I kind of just say, like when we say yes to that emotion and we bring love to it, it just softens and dissipates, and it just has this slow, gentle release is my feeling. Occasionally there's been what I would call an abreaction where someone's had deep trauma released, and it's not the usual norm. But yeah, I remember having an experience myself where I was actually in a hypnobirthing training, and I did primarily I'm a clinical hypnotherapist, but also back then I became a hypnobirthing facilitator because I needed to heal trauma from my own birth experiences. And she said to us in the class, which was interesting because as an energy healer, I've been doing this work for 20 years. So at that time, I think it was probably about 5, maybe 8. So it would have been probably 5 years as a Reiki master at that point. And she said in the class, when we're doing the hypnosis, some of your clients may have an emotional reaction. She said, the first thing I want to say is hands off, don't touch them. And whatever you do, don't stop the flow of tears. And I remember thinking, oh, okay, that's cool. Like, how am I going to do that as an energy healer? Because like my hands are always on. But what I took from that is, give them permission to cry, like give them permission that crying's okay. It's a release. It's wonderful. And little did I know in that very classroom, I would be the one having uncontrolled crying because what she was doing in the hypnosis, and I was in a deep trance state because I'd go down quite quickly when I'm being hypnotized as well as, meditation and things. And she said I think she was talking about the birth that I didn't get. So she was talking about, that birth that I had desired and wanted so much, the natural birth. And I had two, a cesareans, one emergency, one not. And there was this feeling of I'd lost a birthright or I'd lost a path of experiencing, a natural birth. And it was a whole bunch of expectation. But this sorrow came up from deep within, and I just howled like in a room. Like I'm normally especially back then, was very aware of how I was being, how I was being perceived by others and wanting to be seen as, as a professional, blah, blah, blah. And then here I was, howling, crying. And then basically I came out of hypnosis. I'm sobbing. No one touched me, and I'm like, and then I just had to move myself out of the room, and I stood quietly and I sobbed in the corner, and a part of me went, where's the bloody team? Like, where the fuck is everyone? No, sorry about swearing. Where is everyone? No one's coming to my aid. You might have to bleep that, Keryn. Sorry. But then when no one came to my aid, guess who came in? Who do you think came in when no one was there to help me,
This
Keryn?
is putting me on the spot, is it?
Yeah. Ooh, we talk about healing from within.
It would have been a part of you.
A voice from within, the most loving, kind, incredible wisdom came through and softened the blow of what I was experiencing and nurtured me. And it was an energetic voice. It was a feeling. It was a reverence. It was like being adored in that moment and held in a state of grace. And we often talk in healing about sometimes we end up flawed by life, or we end up in these states of pain where we surrender, and something comes in those and to me it's because we are in vulnerability. We've broken, like our heart's in a broken state, we've cracked open, and through those million broken hearted parts of ourselves, the light gets in and there's opportunity for love to be received. And it can happen through people loving us, and it can happen through healers loving and holding space for us, and it can happen through us loving us. And I think, to me, knowing that there is always an aspect of love that's here for me at any moment in any time that I can call on. I don't need to wait for a friend to be available. I don't need to, hold on until I see my therapist. And I love therapists too and still have one. So I'm not saying that, they're needed at different times. But to me, connecting people with their soul is my life's purpose and work. And all the many myriad of forms that she or he takes, the soul takes to communicate with us and connect with us and uplift us, is where the fun really begins for me.
Do you believe that every individual that's born onto this planet and into this world has a remembrance of some kind as to the divine essence from which they've come?
I wouldn't say that they all have a remembrance. I believe that everyone is psychic and ability to connect to their intuition. So I absolutely believe that. I know it. It's a knowing, not a belief. It's a knowing that we're all souls, living spirits, living in a physical experience. I do believe that some forget. So there's a veil of remembrance that it's either circumstances, times, or teachers or experiences that awaken. I see it as like a thinning of the veil between being very physically dominated and focused on the physical world. And then I do feel that when the time's right, there's a calling for that deeper yearning for something more, something greater. I know that there's something more here. I just don't know what it is. And to me, that's usually when people find me, and it's Reiki is an easy tool to awaken that connection. So I do feel like when I say veil, it's like a curtain, and on the other side of that curtain is what I would call spirit ancestors, spirit guides, beings of light, our own soul, our higher self, consciousness, God, whatever we want to call it. It's been named the big I am, where the small I am, human. That's my kind of awareness.
That's a lovely way of explaining it. I rather love the fact that when an individual reincarnates, comes in for another turnaround, that there isn't a consciousness connected to that remembrance. There is this blank slate, as it's often called, because we then get to make choices and to experience life.
Free will.
And things will happen that we may think, well, gosh, why did I do that? Because the energy is there. As you say, there's this veil. And when we choose, we can jump that veil anytime.
Peak. Yeah, we can pick.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
it's, because the reality is we're human.
Yeah.
And in that humanness.
And we're here to speak.
It's.
Yeah, absolutely agree.
So what?
Yeah, it's that feeling of. Yeah, I just want to clarify that point. Like, I love that. Do you believe in reincarnation? That we've had multiple lives?
Absolutely.
And we reincarnate. Yeah, same. And to me, I remember when I was younger, someone said, do you believe in heaven? I'm like, yep. And they're like, do you believe in reincarnation? I'm like, yep. And they go, well, you can't believe in both. And I'm like, oh, why? And they were like, well, you have to choose one or the other. And I'm like, my friend was at Sunday school. And I'm like, okay, I believe in heaven then. And I really didn't. I was just like saying what she wanted me to say. But my awareness now is that there absolutely is a heaven or a place of euphoria that we go to when all negative emotion of the human self subsides, because as human, we become we re-emerge into non-physical, we're back into that, that soul aspect of self that is the expanded version of all that we are, connected to source and all that is. And then we also have lived multiple lives, and I've done some past life work. As a clinical hypnotherapist, I've taken people into their past lives. But I absolutely believe that we do come through with a slate that is wiped. Like I had someone when I worked at Starlight years ago. She had a daughter that was very sick with lupus, and she said to me once, "I've been cursed. I must have been horrible in a past life." And I'm just like, I fell into that, and I thought, wow, like how disempowering to believe that something that someone did in a past life, and totally not related to you in any way, shape, or form, could be influencing the life you're living in this life to that negative detriment. And I kind of just went, that doesn't resonate with me, and I didn't believe in that. And I kind of did my own personal exploration and my own understanding, and it may ruffle a few feathers, but I guess this is, what I know. And I do believe that, we're born into this life with a clean slate. And when we do choose to activate perhaps gifts or lessons or learnings from the greater soul, we can. But ultimately, we're here to develop and experience things from this
Oh,
life's
absolutely.
perspective. And the healing happens in the here and now.
I'm going to jump in and say, yeah, this is one point that we're going to have a little bit of a different perspective on.
Okay,
Anecdotally,
cool.
yes, it is, because I've experienced with others things like lighting a
Mm,
candle and having a woman just scream at me, blow it out. Now, I blew it out because
wow.
I could see the absolute horror and terror that came onto her face and the
Mm,
sweat that poured down. And I thought, that's interesting.
panic.
It
Yep.
caught her by surprise, the intensity of the reaction.
Yeah.
Um, and indeed,
Yeah.
me
Yeah. Of
tuning
course.
in because I had lots of fun going back into people's past lives. Indeed, she had lost in a past life her life to a
Mm,
house fire. And she said to me then, I can't handle any naked flames. Now, there was nothing logical in her current
wow.
incarnation that had caused that. Okay. Another one is a gentleman that could not have
Mm,
anything around
mm.
his neck. Nothing. No t shirt,
Yeah.
no
Okay.
bow
Yeah.
tie, no necktie, nothing. Again, I was fascinated, went back. He, in a past life, had been hung. So the energy of,
Yeah, I had that.
so
That was there. And so in do you release that trauma, energetically so that they can be around flame and not have that same trigger response?
no, because I wasn't asked.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. In the work that I've done, it's like, okay, is that, I always look for the healing situation and look at, is that affecting your life in this life in a detrimental way? And then is there something we can do through trauma release to let that go
Absolutely.
and let that past memory go so it doesn't have a negative impact in the physical life? So,
Absolutely.
yeah, I find that really helpful.
Both of these people were friends,
Ah,
and it was just a conversation that we were having. And I thought, oh, and it's actually for both of them, I simply saw immediately the past life involved. And I went, oh, okay, cool, leave it. And it took me down the rabbit hole of wondering when people have this deep seated fear
mm,
that has no logical understanding in their current incarnation, it
mhm,
makes me wonder, has something happened in a past life? Because whilst I say and I believe that we come into a current incarnation with no conscious memory of what we've done in the past, which is what I call the clean slate.
mm.
The vibration, because we're energy, we bring our energy in with us, even though we don't have a conscious remembrance, again,
Mhm,
is where I come from. I just
mhm,
think, okay, if somebody has been hung in a past life, that is part of the energetic experience of them in that life. And so that has the potential of being part of their existence. It may never show itself, and yet it may.
mm.
So it's because everything in my world is energy. And everything I've experienced in past lives is a part of who I am now. I truly believe my musical gift is something I've brought in with me in this past life because it showed so early, so well. It didn't make logical sense. Well, you haven't had time to cultivate that, but look at how well you do
Mm.
it.
Yeah, you see absolute geniuses that are tapped into, to an energetic imprint that is
Yeah.
beyond reason. You look at Buddha and how he, was reincarnated and was able to remember and choose and make selection of some of his things, and that's how they knew he was the Buddha that had
Yeah.
been reincarnated. So absolutely believe in past lives. But there is a difference in some of the beliefs I think that we have, which is great.
Yeah.
That's all part of having
That's what makes the world go round.
Sure
It's all
does.
that
It sure
color,
does. It is.
all that color.
It is. Yeah, beautiful.
So, if I was to ask you, Miss Lisa Brandis,
Yeah.
what actions can you share with our listeners? A couple of actions that they can take
Yeah.
to actually, no, I'll back up. What do you do on a daily basis to stay connected with your ability to heal from within? What do you
Yeah,
do?
great question. Automatic writing is
Mhm.
a tool and a practice that I use. So you can simply just bring yourself to a piece of paper and write down, "Dear love, what would you have me know today?" Or you can ask, I just did it last night. I teach a Learn to Channel course. So I was teaching my class how to do it. And there was just a decision that I'm looking at making at the moment. And I asked, my inner being, what is it that can make this transition that I'm going through smoother? Or what is it that I need to know about this change I'm coming into? And the message that I got was pure and beautiful. And I sat with a class of, I think I've got 10 in my current Learn to Channel class. And one by one, they're all beginners. They're all new to this experience. Only one of the whole entire class had done automatic writing before. Now, I didn't prepare them. I just said, I want you to write out on a piece of paper, set a clear intention. I did rework some of the intentions because some of them were a little bit, they had a high expectation, which sometimes can get in the flow, get in the way. The logical brain comes in if we set the expectation that's a little bit too high. So I just brought it in and made it a bit more general. And one by one, when they shared the messages, they were so profound. And there's something about wisdom that comes from that place of unconditional love, is that it's not only timeless, it seems to be relevant for the entire group. So one by one, each student is sharing what love said to them about their personal circumstances, and we're all going, damn, that's great. Like, wow, that was uplifting and inspiring and humbling to hear. So that to me is a easy to do exercise that has been around for centuries. It's been time tested as a way of just bypassing that critical factor, which is our mind. I call it the monkey mind when I talk about spirituality and work with spirit. So the other one is meditation. Okay, so meditation is just literally guided meditation, if you like. There's apps with thousands of meditations, so that will bring you out of that worry state where from hypnotherapy we look at when we're chewing over and analyzing things in the past that can lead to some kind of depression. When we're looking at worrying about the future, we tend to be anxious. So the gifts that come from being present focused, we're not worried, we're not anxious, we're in the present, we're in the now. So meditation's the second one. So automatic writing, meditation, massage and touch, anything that feels good. Quite often when I need it, I'll sit in front of my husband and say, can you just rub my shoulders? And it's just a little, gentle massage. Self-Reiki, we can give ourselves Reiki. Animals, pat your pets, give love to your animals, ring a friend, check in, see how they're doing. That's where we're going back into that. How can I be of service? See a psychologist or a counselor or a healer. I've got a whole tool of people that I lean on that I would say over the years I've created like a I guess scaffolding. I know that if it's business advice, I've got this friend I can call. If it's I spoke to you yesterday when I was in indecision, Keryn, and you were so beautiful as a sounding board to just help me to find that clarity. And sometimes we get passionate when we're talking because you have a way of questioning that just brings out sometimes the blocks or the problems. And as a reset, as well as your beautiful healing sessions. So yeah, and sometimes it's I need a psychologist, and I have one that I've just booked back in with for a couple of sessions because I know that the problem's coming from my mind. So sometimes it's emotional healing I need, and I see a healer, I see a hypnotherapist, regularly as well. So yeah, I think it's important that we lean into support when needed, but also access that inner wealth of wisdom within as well. So I kind of like both. I have a hybrid in my life, a hybrid of, leaning on others and recognizing when I need help is just as important, I think, to know when you're struggling and reach out and get help. And also to, manage my own mind and tap into those gifts. To me, that's the sweet spot. Both.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing all of that. There's such a variety there for our listeners to be able to go, oh, I like that. Oh, I like that. And look, it doesn't always have to cost money.
No.
Simply walking outside your front door or your back door, looking up at the sky, taking a big deep breath and go, wow, look at where I am.
Yeah.
That can be magical. I was with a group of ladies this morning and we were all discussing the fact that it's been so wet this week here in Perth that a lot of us have spent our time inside the house.
Yeah.
And we were feeling a little bit flat
Yeah.
because we had not stepped outside and had some sunshine shining on us and taken a big deep breath. We've literally disconnected ourselves from the world.
Yeah.
And really, that's my go-to, and I feel that you'd be on the same page. The ability to heal is our ability to connect with ourself. And when we're feeling off, chances are there's a level of disconnection with ourself. And when I say ourself, it's that part that has all that wisdom, all that divine energy, and for that matter, Mother Earth, anchoring in, grounding.
Yeah, so important.
It's that connection both ways, really.
Yeah, and Keryn, we live in a day and age where we are bombarded by so much stuff. Like where there's information coming in. We've got ChatGPT now that is just taking it to a whole new level of data and information. There's music, there's noise. That I remember talking to another therapist, she's actually a psychic medium. And she was saying she did a healing session on a teenager. And he said, this is the first time I've actually been in silence for years because he didn't know how to just sit in the energy of just a quiet room, and I thought, wow, because that, quite often our teenagers, I've got teenagers too, they're plugged in. Georgia walks around the house with music playing, like even in the shower. When I say, don't take that phone in there, it's blaring music. And I see the benefit of it, but I also think, gosh, why have we lost that ability to just walk out in nature and just be present with the nature? And I remember once that my husband said, oh, like we look at the phones and the Facebook and we've got our head down and it's like a little F, like where our world becomes constricted. We go down and we go into this thing that we think is causing social connection, but it's actually doing anything but connecting us, right? And he said the opposite of that, phones addiction, is walking outside. And he said, just look at the sky. Your heart opens, your energy field opens. All of a sudden you're seeing life and you're hearing the sounds of nature. And that might include life and the busyness of the cars. And there's this expansion that happens. And I must admit, I get addicted just like everyone else. I struggle with it too, Keryn. My husband says, go for a walk with the dog. and don't listen to a podcast. And I'm like, but I feel that it's like a pull to have to fill the void, right? When we get these moments of peace. And you're so right. We just need to step outside and bask in the sun for as little as 5 minutes, and we feel the physical benefit, emotional, mental, spiritual benefit. We do like to
It really is
complicate
the
things.
magic. It's sorry, what was that?
We do like to complicate things as humans. Like, seriously, it's as simple as walking outside and just basking in the sun. Yeah. Cuddling a little puppy.
I love the fact that Mother Nature asks nothing of us.
Yes.
We can walk outside,
Yep.
and as soon as we are outside our physical building, physiologically positive things happen.
Yeah.
And our action has been to go outside.
Yeah.
It's just that it's the magic of the world that has been created, out of which we are a part. Remember, we're made of the same stuff that stars are.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We're infinite.
That to me just blows my mind.
I know. It's so much bigger than we actually ever really contemplate. I remember one of my great teachers saying to me, there's some point in spirituality, and we see it with Reiki, the practice of Reiki. I've been doing this 20 years and I still can't put my finger on how it works. And no master can, because there is a state of that. There is a spiritual grace that happens for us. We know the practice, we know the tools, we know the how. We don't know that the essence of it is a spiritual gift. Full stop. It's a mystery. There is this we have to always have this part of us as spiritual teachers, that there's this element of just not, there's this mystery we're never going to fully understand, because it's bigger and broader than anything we as humans could contemplate or put an idea around and harness,
Absolutely.
So, yeah. It's fascinating. God, I could talk to you for years, Keryn, and I'm aware of,
Look, honey, this has been such a fabulous conversation, and I'm really being a very good girl and consciously deciding I'm going to bring this to a close now. Otherwise, we'll be asking ourselves, what would you like for lunch? And then what would you like for dinner? Because we'll be going on and on and on. Look, would you come back and have another chat with me again one day, Miss Lisa Brandis?
I would love to. It would be a delight to have more fun conversations.
Look, I've really appreciated your energy being here. You have a way of seeing the world that is so you. And, again, welcome to the world. You've come in to be you. You've come in to share your gifts, and you do it in your way, with your language, with your love, with your understanding. I know, okay, I'd like to think, yes, so do I.
As you do you. Yeah, that's exactly, you just read my mind. I was thinking the exact same thing. As do you, beautiful soul.
As does everybody.
Yeah.
And welcome to the world we live in. We're asked to simply be the best version that we can be each and every day. And I thank you for rolling up onto my little podcast today to share your energy. So, Lisa, I'm going to put contact details for you in the show notes. So anybody that is listening to this that would like to reach out to you, they may be interested in this idea of learning to channel, learning to connect with that part of them, that spiritual part of them. So, folk, I will put that in the show notes. And thank you, Miss Lisa, very much for your time.
You're very welcome.
And as I love to say, until we meet again.
May your day be full of the magic that is you, wherever you may be. Everything in this world is energy, and that includes you. Remember, you are the most important person in your world, and you came into this life with all the tools you will ever need to support your healing from within. Let the healing begin.